Welcome to SC Conversation. I'm your host, Brian Mosteller. This week we have Trana from Shriners Hospital. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Trana Pittam, and I'm the Director of Marketing Communications for Shriners Hospitals for Children, Greenville.
Great, great. So tell us a little bit about the difference between the Shriners fraternal organization and the Shriners Hospital.
That's a fantastic question. A lot of people are kind of confused about where that line is drawn. So Shriners Hospitals for Children is actually the philanthropy of Shriners International, which the Red Fezzes, or everyone's familiar with. We were founded several decades after the Shriners organization was founded, when they decided that they wanted to have a philanthropy associated with their fraternity. At the time, polio was an epidemic in the United States, and so that is what they decided to dedicate themselves to, and they established at the time what was called Shriners Hospitals for Crippled Children, and polio was the main thing that they addressed. Over the years, that has transformed into Shriners Hospitals for Children, where we not only treat orthopedic conditions, but on a national level and actually international. We have a hospital in Canada and a hospital in Mexico. Some locations do treat burns, cleft lip and palate, but here in Greenville, South Carolina, we focus on orthopedics. We also cover a 6-state region, so in addition to South Carolina, the local Shriners Children's Hospital here also assists children in North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama.
Oh wow! Oh wow! Yeah, my dad, he was a Shriner, so I'm familiar with the Shriners Hospital. He was a proud Shriner. He gave a lot of money, you know, as others did too. Mm-hmm. You know, all during the year, and they would, you know, pay their dues, of course, to be a Shriner.
Right.
But then they also were very proud, you know, to give money to the Shriners Hospitals.
Absolutely, and the Shriners are still an integral part of our organization. In fact, our Board of Governors, who meet once a month to discuss matters pertaining to the hospital, are Shriners from throughout that 6-state region that I mentioned. So they're definitely very active and a big part of our organization. But like I said, there's kind of a separation there between the fraternity and then between the hospitals.
Okay, okay. So you began as a charity hospital, mm-hmm. like you said. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Right. Well, the Shriners back in that era really wanted children to have somewhere to seek care regardless of their ability to pay. That continues until today. There is no need for insurance. However, what has changed in this age of healthcare is that we actually do now accept insurance. And instead of being a quote-unquote charity hospital, we actually are home to the largest team of pediatric orthopedic surgeons in the Carolinas. So we most definitely offer the best care possible. With that, we also do accept insurance, which we began accepting, I believe it was in 2010. So now, when we say regardless of ability to pay, that doesn't only pertain to those who may not have the means for medical care, but also regardless of the ability to pay, that if you are not in need of charity care, that we still offer our services to you, and do so with some of the highest state-of-the-art equipment and finest doctors that you'll find in the region.
Great. So what conditions are treated, you know, at the Shriners Hospital?
Now, as I mentioned, you know, nationally, there's a few different areas of expertise, but here in Greenville, it's orthopedic. So that's 85 different orthopedic conditions. Scoliosis is definitely one of our most treated conditions. We actually have a inpatient program. It's called the HALO. And so for severe scoliosis patients, it uses a gentle traction over several months to slowly straighten the child's spine so that they are prepared for surgery. Now, a lot of people, when they picture Shriners, probably reflecting back to prior years, think of just wards and wards of children. That's actually not the case. Our priority is to get kids back on their feet and back in their homes where they heal best in a matter of days. So the HALO program is really our only long-term patients that are treated at our Shriners Hospital today. Cerebral palsy is also a very big program at Shriners, as is spina bifida. We also have an injury care clinic. So I'm a mom of 2 girls, and my oldest has actually been a patient a couple times playing soccer, and the various injuries she's managed to acquire through athletics. So a very great injury care program that's open every day for those, like I said, overnight injuries that you need a doctor that next day, and especially right now, maybe want to avoid the ER.
Right.
Yeah.
So healthcare naturally is very competitive right now between different hospitals, and hospitals being bought and purchased and sold or whatever. So, what are some of your bragging rights, if you will, about the things that that Shriners has done to maybe be a cut above some of the other ones?
Yeah, those are easy to find. As I mentioned earlier, we do have the largest team of pediatric orthopedic surgeons. I believe the combined years of experience exceeds 150 years. So I'm not sure there's anywhere else that you're going to find, within driving distance at least, where a team has that much expertise to rely upon. Our doctors, when you see one of our doctors, it doesn't stop there. He has or she has a whole team of other experts to consult with to come up with the best treatment for your child. So there's that. Also, what's really great is all of our services are offered under one roof. So, if you've been to an appointment lately, you go, one stop for your x-ray, and then the next stop for your physical therapy, and then the next stop to see your physician himself. Well, everything we have is under our one roof. So that's physical therapy, that is your radiology department. We have a motion analysis lab, which actually uses state-of-the-art technology that was used in the movie Avatar to measure the gait of children to determine the best course of care for them. Speaking of radiology that I mentioned a moment ago, we're actually home to the EOS machine, which offers a fraction of the dosage of that a typical x-ray machine might offer, which is incredibly important, especially to kids who may be undergoing more frequent x-rays.
Right, exactly. I mean, things like that are phenomenal, because like you said, these kids, it's not like, a kid goes out and breaks his arm, he goes and gets an x-ray. Here, these kids are getting multiple x-rays, for different issues and different things. So yeah, anything like that. Yes. So do y'all partner with any outside hospitals or outside services, or are you pretty much inclusive?
We do rely on some, for instance, an anesthesiologist comes over to assist us with surgeries, things like that. So there is a small bit of overlap, but for the most part, we are very self-sufficient. Another department that we have, referring back to what sets us apart, is our prosthetics and orthotics lab. Right there in-house, they're able to assist with whether it's an entire prosthetic leg or perhaps just an insert for their shoe. And that's also something that we make a lot of them in-house. And if any are made outside of our 4 walls, then they're adjusted and they're perfected for that particular patient once they arrive at our hospital. So literally everything you need, just in that one-stop parking garage. You come up and we're all there.
How many beds are there, or how many people do y'all treat, on an annual basis, things like that? I mean, what are some numbers?
Well, we see thousands of clinic patients. So. Our surgical inpatient and outpatient numbers into the low thousands as well. But on a typical clinic day, I'd say, average of 50 kids plus or minus rotating through our clinic each day. And those clinic needs may be everything from, as I mentioned, a broken arm, or something maybe more chronic, like cerebral palsy. Our limb deficiency program is also quite large, and that's for both acquired limb deficiency, so perhaps a lawnmower accident, unfortunately, is something that we see a lot of as far as acquired limb deficiencies, to kiddos who perhaps were born with some limb deficiency, either arm or leg.
Okay.
So.
Wow. Okay. So what are some events that occur during the year that we'd like to make people aware of, where they can come in and maybe help? How do they get in touch with you guys? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we're really grateful that we have so many third-party fundraisers. Everything from, of course, our Shriners doing various events throughout the year, to different, actually later this week I'll be going to meet with some Girl Scouts who did a toy drive for us. So lots of different events going on our behalf throughout the year. We do try to do one fundraising event per year. It's a walk, which we usually call the Walk for Love. So actually, if you just keep up with us on our Facebook page, which is SHC, so Shriners Hospitals Children, Greenville, we keep that updated with not only our events, but also some really great content as far as making you smile and seeing the wonderful treatment that these sweet kids are receiving at our hospital. So that's the best way to keep up with our events. Also our website, greenvilleshrinershospital.org. We also there in that landing page keep things updated if we have a current event, a fundraiser that you can be a part of. Our volunteer department is also something that's very important to us. And if you want to be a part of that, just visit that website and it'll give you the contact information to reach out and to become a volunteer.
Do y'all have a lot of volunteers? Do you have a lot?
We do. We have about 40 really active volunteers, and they do everything from in the waiting room to taking patients back from to their clinic appointments, to helping in the marketing communications office filing patient consents. So currently we are on a hiatus with our volunteers, but we hope that we'll have volunteers back on soon.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and hope we can get the word out about the Shriners Hospital. It's a great thing here in Greenville. I know it's been here for a number of years, and it continues to be great. I appreciate you coming on and giving some updated information, and thanks a lot. I would like to take this time to thank all of the wonderful people and businesses who are sponsoring this show. When you visit the businesses, be sure to go in and tell them thank you for sponsoring SC Conversation.
Hardwood flooring is the most popular kind of flooring, and no one has a larger selection of hardwood flooring than Greer Flooring Center. Remember, you'll always find what you're looking for at the price you're looking for at Greer Flooring Center.
Hey, Upstate, Dave Ramsey here to tell you about our investing ELPs, Roger Sims and Jason Carr at Sims & Carr Financial Solutions. Roger and Jason are the only people I personally endorse for investing right here in the Upstate. They specialize in retirement planning, 401k rollovers, as well as mutual funds and other investments. I personally recommend Roger Sims and Jason Carr of Sims & Carr Financial Solutions. Call Roger and Jason today at 879-0337. That's 879-0337.
Hello, welcome to SC Conversation. I'm your host, Brian Mosteller. Today we have Colonel Schmid. Welcome.
Thank you for having me here.
From Veterans Last Patrol. So, Colonel, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm retired Army. I grew up here in the upstate of South Carolina, but I went away for many years and spent a total of 31 years in the Army, and was one of those very privileged individuals that got to serve with young Americans all over the world in different assignments, combat as well as non-combat, and just feel honored I had that chance to serve with my fellow brothers and sisters and defend our country and what we stand for.
Well, great, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Let me say that first of all. Tell us a little bit about Veterans Last Patrol. Tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, Veterans Last Patrol is a nonprofit that's focused on veterans in hospice care, and our core mission has three parts. We bring friendships, honor ceremonies, and emergency assistance to veterans that are in hospice care or end-of-life care situations. There's a lot of lonely veterans out there, and I learned that some years ago, so we started this nonprofit to try to help bring attention and friendships and honors to those veterans.
Great, great. So I mean, why did you start it? I mean, what was there a point in your life where you saw something they weren't being taken care of, which we all know the vets need to be taken care of more than they are, but what was kind of the turning point that kind of sparks you to do this?
There's a lot of lonely people that are in hospice care and nursing homes. We all know that. Many of us had experience there. And when you go into those places, you just sometimes are struck by the sadness, by the isolation that folks have in these facilities. Long story, but I'll shorten it about how we did last patrol. My last assignment on active duty is I was the chief of the Wounded Warrior Flight Program for the Department of Defense. And in that capacity, dealing with thousands of wounded, which I got to meet many of them, we learned that dealing with adversity is extremely difficult, as we all know. And the more severe the circumstances are, the more adversity there is, the more important it is to have a team around you, to have support around you. So after I finished that assignment, soon thereafter, I learned about hospice situations, and I remembered a story that my mom shared with us when I was a small child, where she dealt with a lady who was in hospice care, and she'd come home and tell us the stories about what was going on. And from there, I thought about those two things. I decided to put them together.
Okay, okay. So tell us some of your stories that you have. I'm assuming you have a lot of them, but tell us some of the stories you have about the veterans in hospice care where you guys have reached out to them.
Well, there's so many remarkable stories. You know, sometimes these individuals in late in life have become fairly or completely isolated with no families. And a couple years ago, I was visiting a gentleman up in New Jersey when I still lived there for a period of time. He was a World War II veteran and had seen a submarine sinking incident in the Pacific, and then he went into Normandy on D-Day in 1944. He told me a number of stories, but one I really like to tell was on the landing at D-Day, he saw a landing craft next to him that got terribly shot up, and unfortunately those crew members went into the water. So he dove in the water and rescued one of these wounded individuals in a neighboring landing craft, and then they became friends. And for like 45 years following that incident, that friend that he rescued sent his rescuer, my friend, a box of cigars on the anniversary of D-Day.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
There's just countless stories. You know, when you get in late in life like that, you really appreciate the opportunity we found to tell your stories one more time.
Right, right. So what about some of the people that you've helped? I mean, I'm assuming it's just not Army, it's veterans.
No, it's all branches of service.
All branches of service. So how far do you reach? I mean, is this just South Carolina? Is it, where is that?
We started in South Carolina about 2 years ago now, so we're still a young nonprofit. Mm-hmm. But we have currently volunteers in 14 states, so we're growing pretty rapidly. There are veterans all over the country, and our focus is anyone, anywhere that would like to volunteer to support veterans in hospice care can come to us and find out about us.
Okay, so it's not necessarily somebody who has to be a veteran to volunteer, but
no.
The people they're going to see pretty much are
our care is
veterans.
focused towards veterans in hospice,
right.
But we get volunteers that just have a special affinity towards veteran issues.
Right.
We picked up one a few days ago whose father was a World War II Iwo Jima Marine, and she just always admired Marines in the service of the Marine Corps and wanted to volunteer herself. She's not a veteran, so we'll take any volunteers that are interested in veteran issues.
So who are your volunteers, and you know, how do they become one? How do they become a volunteer? What do they need to do?
They become a volunteer by contacting us. We have a website, veteranlastpatrol.org. There's a contact tab there, veteranlastpatrol.org. They'll reach out to us. We're also very active on social media. They can find us there on Facebook and Instagram. And we'll tell them more about the organization, what our focus is, how we cooperate locally with the local hospices, because you know, hospice is a local affair. It depends on where you are.
Sure. And
we'll identify a little bit more about their background, what their connection to the veterans community is, and how they best think they can help. So that's the process, how it gets started. It's all volunteer.
Okay, good. So tell us a little bit about some of the friendships that your volunteers have made, some of the impacts that they've made in talking to these veterans who are on hospice, because I'm sure they've made great impact.
Yes, and like a lot of volunteer activities, you end up getting a lot more out of it oftentimes than you put into it. But in this case in particular, because the volunteer gets exposed to maybe some time period, some history they weren't familiar with, background of life that was different from their own, and there's just a lot of connections that you make, and sometimes you can reveal things to the family that they weren't already aware of, because you as a veteran may have familiarity with a veteran's life, a particular training facility, a particular base, a particular ship. The family itself may not know about that because perhaps they haven't served. So when the veteran comes into that picture late in a person's life, they really have a chance to explore some things that perhaps the veteran that's dying didn't really have a chance to talk to anybody about for quite some time.
Right. So you say you guys deal with the hospice, or if somebody called you, like a family member, if they called you and said, hey, my great uncle is passing and he's on hospice, then you would go out, send somebody out to that person.
Yes, either one of those circumstances, we just want to serve, we just want to help these veterans in end-of-life care. Most of our leads come through hospice providers, medical organizations that are providing the care. But if we have a situation like you described, somebody called us. Recently we had a case where the hospice patient himself was worried about his wife's health and his wife's happiness and psychological condition because he was dying. So he contacted us and asked us to get somebody to get a group together to write to his wife and offer her encouragement.
Wow, wow. That's a pretty strong person to do that. That's a pretty strong person. So what are some of the events that go on during the year that you guys, like I'm assuming, July the 4th, Memorial Day, things like that. What do you
we do honor rides. We try to do an honor ride every year in the fall, which is motorcycles and car show combination event that we gather at a certain point and we ride by nursing home facilities and we honor them with certificates thanking them for their care of their veteran patients. We do something called Operation Holiday Salute, which is a Christmas card campaign where we try to get as many holiday cards to veterans in hospice care around the country as we can.
Okay. Do y'all do anything around the Christmas holidays and things like that?
Yes, Operation Holiday Salute is something where we're raising Christmas cards for the veterans in hospice care. Last year we got about 4,000 Christmas cards, and we distributed those cards throughout the country to various facilities with their patients that are in hospice care. We're going to do also a car show, which will be a drive-by of hospice care facilities on the holiday time period as well.
Okay, good, good. So you say this is how old?
Just under 2 years.
Under 2 years. Mm-hmm. So you're into about, what do you say, 14 states?
14 states.
So where do you see this going from here?
I'd like to see it go nationally. I mean, everyone I've talked to really likes the mission. We all know that late in life, those folks that get confined to these facilities get very lonely. So this idea of bringing friendships to veterans that are in end-of-life care, I think has resonance far and wide, and we believe there's a chance that it could grow nationally, and we hope that we can do so.
Okay. Okay. Are you talking to anybody like from the government, if you will, or are you how are you trying to progress, I guess I should say?
We're talking to various groups and organizations that have similar connections to the veterans community, all your other veteran service organizations, American Legions, VFWs, Vietnam Veterans Association. We work with any of those because they oftentimes are the source of our volunteers. Sure. We have worked with some national associations and we hope to do more of that in the future. Of course, we seek sponsors and donors for our activities, and we're trying to grow by getting the word out and offer this companionship to veterans that are in end-of-life care.
Now, do you do anything with, like I know in the past, because we have Donaldson Center here, they'll bring some big planes in and they'll take some older veterans out to those. Do you do anything like that?
We have an event like that coming up. It's going to be a facility visit to various nursing homes in the upstate here. And as part of that, there's going to be a World War II aircraft that'll be flying along the parade route to the facility. We've also done exhibitions with the Military History Center of the Carolinas here in Greenville, South Carolina. They have a number of military vehicles, restored vehicles. They've attended and have set up some facility operations for us, and sometimes they'll bring those vehicles to our honor ceremonies that we do at homes and at facilities for the veterans that are in hospice care.
That's awesome. That's great. That's great.
Thank you.
Colonel Schmid, I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so
Brian.
much. Veterans Last Patrol, and look for them. You say you have a Facebook page?
Facebook, website, veteranlastpatrol.org.
We'll put it on our website also, so people can get out there and maybe send some Christmas cards around Christmas and things like that.
Thank you very much.
So, Colonel Schmid, again, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Brian.
Thanks again to our guests and our wonderful sponsors. Remember, you can stay informed about SC Conversation during the week on our Facebook page and website. Also, feel free to send us an email at info@scconversation.com. Thanks for watching, and have a great evening.